Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast with co-host Wayne Frazier Jr. of Doug Laurie Sports, where you buy all your sports memorabilia, baseball, hockey, football, boxing, WWE cards, whatever you like. Wayne's got them. And I'm Jonathan A. Cohen of Kormans LP, real estate lawyer, podcaster, and author of the Bible 3.0, the Six Commandments of the Chosen Life, my lifestyle guidebook, and available on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Noble, and it's available as an audiobook, not just an ebook, not just a physical book. So if you like listening to books that are motivating you and have some motivational music, check out the Bible 3.0. And I'll tell you a group of people that really need the Bible 3.0. They need to find their motivation, their mindfulness, and some self improvement. And that is the Toronto Blue Jays. So we get so excited about this team, Wayne. And, Alec Manoah with all his fun stuff, up and down and all around finally has two amazing starts. Okay. I never thought I'd see in the world in both of my fantasy leagues, people go to grab him. Okay. He had that good of numbers, literally looked like the Manoa of old. And, at the time of taping, as I'm going to bed last night, the Blue Jays announced, and by now we'll know what's happening, but he's complaining of elbow soreness and he has to go get that checked out. Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good.
I was watching that game and everybody wants to downplay and say, oh, maybe it's just tightness or whatever else. Man, I mean, he wasn't hopping around on the mound grabbing his elbow necessarily, but I think that was a conscious choice on Manoah's part not to do that. I think he was trying to project that, no, I'm okay, right? Because after all the stuff, everything that I don't want to say he's been through or he's done to himself to get back to where you are right now, where you're a top starter. I mean, he pitched extremely well, even in the last game before the one we're talking about where he hurt his arm. He wasn't terrible. He just couldn't find his release point, and that's been an issue with Manoah for a long time, right? But that's what was right in those couple other starts was consistency. He was throwing consistently well, right? Great movement, good location. You know, there are times when he loses because he's a big guy and he flies open and he loses his release point and he can't do the repeatable delivery as well. But I'm expecting to hear that he's shut down for at least a month or two. And I'm hoping it's not some sort of something that requires surgery. But I mean, I, did they push him too much? I don't feel like. I mean, he threw a lot of pitches in those starts, right? But he's a big guy, and he's not throwing overly hard right now. Like he's not throwing at 100, right? I don't know. It's a little terrifying, and it's look again. I don't want to say that I feel like the bad things that have happened to Manoah because I think he's responsible for some of those bad things, right? Um, for kind of being, well, I don't want to go to Buffalo and whatever else. Well, tough crap. I don't care what you want. Um, but you don't wish this on anybody, and especially when, the strong suit of this team so far has been the pitching. And then to add Manoah in there, and even if he wasn't pitching at this level, even if he was pitching at a fourth or fifth starter level, you know, I think maybe the really key thing was if he had kept pitching at this level for another month or two, all of a sudden now, if you really don't are not a believer him in the long term because he's big or whatever else, you can get something for him at the trade deadline, and
Thousands.
you're not going to now, right?
And the thing is, when you see Kikuchi get shellacked, and I mean shellacked in one of his last starts, and it was bad, bad, bad. They gave him like what 7 runs or so.
Mm.
This is the Kikuchi. There's always one or two good starts and one shellacking. He hasn't had that shellacking this year, but when it rears its head with Kikuchi, you're like, Barrios has been pretty consistent for the most part. Bassett started off a little slow. He's been really bringing it on. Bassett, you can basically mark him down for 15 wins, a 4 ERA, 1.2 whip. He walks a little bit too many people than I like. my concern starts getting into Swanson is in the minors, and Romano gets his save but gives up a run every single time. It feels like, this bullpen isn't. I'm not enamored with it. Like Jordan Romano gets traded from let's say there's 12 amazing contending teams. I don't think he's a closer on any of them. I think he turns into a setup man at this point. He's just not there for me for a contending team. Like the Yankees, like was he's gonna supplement Clay Holmes? Not happening, and I don't know the Yankees want him, quite frankly. I liked Swanson. I mean, Swanson went through a terrifying incident in spring training with his son, I believe it was, where he got hit by a car and in the hospital. For any parent, like that is just terrifying as heck. And I don't know if that played a part as far as from the mental game standpoint. But him and Romano both started off on the IL, and the bullpen was supposed to be our uber strength. We were supposed to have one of the deepest, best pens. Rodriguez was injured. And this team is just kind of falling apart at the seams. You lost pieces, you didn't supplement them. You have Kiner Falefa, you have, Biggio played okay. Uh, you know, I like what Jansen when he came back and was healthy. He's been bringing it on a bit. But look, Wayne, the horses aren't there, my friend. And so when trade talk starts coming around and they're saying, oh, I read last night, oh, the Jays are looking at Ryan McMahon from Colorado. Not another second base, third baseman. Lordy, please, enough. Let's look at our real weaknesses here. Look at the outfield. Like we're getting no production pretty much out of them. And the one name that keeps getting bantered around is Wayne's favorite guy in the infield, our shortstop, Bo Bichette. If there's one guy that's rumored to be going, it's Bo, and then number two, Vladdy. So Wayne, we've been waiting all week for your epic rant on Bo Bichette. So now teams are calling Bo Bichette. The Jays come to you and say, Wayne, you're our sports expert. I know you've been digging about this Bichette guy. Do we keep him? Do we trade him? What's your take?
All comes down to what you get back. But I don't feel like Bichette, and I don't know what's left on Bichette's contract. I don't know if you know that off the top of your head or not. Um,
I know he has at least another year. Like he did sign an extension where Vladdy did not. Vladdy still has
I'm
one
just,
arbitration year, and Bo's already locked in.
yeah, so it looks like, just show me the contract. So I think he has one more year. Yeah.
But it is already
Um,
it's at a set amount, whereas Vladdy still has arbitration to go, and Vladdy's
right.
not doing himself any favors with his production. But Bo Bichette, bottom line, some teams will be sniffing around. He's your favorite whipping boy at shortstop. If you can get him out of here now and get something back and something pretty decent, are you doing it?
Yes. Yeah. And look, if Bo Bichette came to me and said, I don't want to leave and I am willing to play left field or second base all the time and not complain about it and not, blah, 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 I might feel differently. Um, but he's not a shortstop on a winning team. He's not a shortstop. And so if you can move him and get a piece, whether it's, I don't know, what would your wish be? Would your wish be a closer? Would your wish be, another starting pitcher? Would your wish be, uh, a power hitting outfielder, somebody in the Teoscar Hernandez sort of, you know, uh, I just don't know what you're going to get back for him. But to me, it's sort of like the discussion we had last week with Tavares. It's sort of a addition by subtraction thing. I just don't think Bichette is the right fit for the team at shortstop. And so, look, I'm fine with seeing IKF there all the time, especially if he keeps, at the time we're taping this, he started hitting the cover off the ball. Everybody likes him. He works hard. He's a solid shortstop. Would I rather have Cal Ripken Jr. there? Sure. But we don't have Cal Ripken Jr., right? And we're not getting him from anybody anytime soon. So, put a guy there who's very solid defensively. And if Bichette wants to move to left field or second base full time, then play him or right field or whatever. That's fine. But if he doesn't want to do that, then trade him for what you can get for him because he's not resigning here at the end of the year next year anyway.
Look, yeah, I call Baltimore and say, listen, Jackson Holiday's been slumping even in the minors. We'll be happy to take him off your hands, but that ain't happening. I think about the Dodgers with Andy Paz, and the Cuban-born outfielder and how much of a prospect he is. He started off very solid for them, then started to slump. I know because he was on my fantasy team. Finally learned how to take a walk. Okay, when he started off, Paz for his first, I don't know, 20 games didn't take one single walk, but now he's starting to take walks. And that is the reason why I don't want Bo Bichette on this team. I get that people love him from a fan standpoint. It looks good on a name on the jersey on the back of your jersey when you're sitting in the stands. But I'm a big believer. I want hitters that know how to take walks, and I want pitchers that don't give up walks. And that to me is a winning formula. And the one thing Bichette does not know how to do is take a walk. And when you're not hitting 340 and you're not walking, it ain't looking so good. And so
Well, and to compound that, Jonathan, too,
yeah.
not only do you want pitchers who do not walk players, you're asking for contact there, and then you're playing a guy at shortstop that's not a good shortstop. So you're making it doubly bad, right? It's
Right.
like I've said a million times. You give me John McDonald and put him at shortstop, and I don't care if he hits 225 or 230 with 5 home runs, because every double play gets turned and every routine ball gets made, every play gets made, and the pitchers work quick and they know if I get the ball on the ground, the infield is going to get the out for me. And you don't have that right now.
Just, if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, go watch a Philadelphia Phillies game, okay? And look at that team where you have, 6, 7 all-stars in your lineup from a hitting standpoint. Look at Kyle Schwarber, how the guy can hit a buck 98, yet have an OBP around 340 because he walks so much. And that's your leadoff hitter. You have the Bryce Harpers of this world, even Castellanos. They look like a championship team. Look at the starting pitching depth. They have 4 relievers that could literally be closers on almost any team. And that's how a championship team is built. Blue Jays have none of that pretty much. And so that's where I'm very adamant. I don't need to have roster players now at this point. I want people's top prospects that we don't have because we have nothing in the minors in Toronto. So I would go ahead and ask for those former first round picks, the people that are the number 2, number 3 prospects in the organization, and say, listen, you're on the cusp, Houston. You're on the cusp, Rangers. So guess what? We will take your person. So we'll take your Evan Carter, we'll take your Langford, and they're injured, but they're top stars, and we'll give you Bichette and whatever. We'll give you Romano. Take a closer and take Bichette and just give us Evan Carter. We're good to go. That's the kind of returns you could potentially get when a team was saying, I'm on the cusp. I know this guy can hit. He's been slumping all year. I don't have 2 years to wait for him. I need to go right now. And the same thing with Vladdy. Vladdy, the talk is he going to go to Seattle? You know, um, is Atlanta going to be sniffing around because they just lost Acuna? There's a lot of options for contending teams and saying, you know what, Vladdy, we can make him a go for this year, next year. We're not getting the 50 home run guy, but he's a heck of a lot better than what we had. With the Jays, I think the decision is made, Wayne. He ain't getting $300 million. He ain't getting $400 million. And by the way, never ever put your star in the home run derby. We've said this before. It screws up their swing. They're never the same. Vladdy was never the same after the home run derby. Stop putting them in home run derbies. Vladdy is done in Toronto. I've had it. We should have tried to get Pete Alonso. We didn't do that. Now Alonso's gonna be a free agent, probably gonna resign with the Mets. But I don't see a world where Vladdy Jr. is in a Blue Jays uniform, after the trade deadline. I think he's got to go, and they can get such a haul of prospects. Like not saying a Herschel Walker type return, but for him, I want 3 good prospects. I'll raid your AAA, AA teams, and let's get this done.
Who's going to give you 3 good prospects for a guy who look, he's as we're taping this, he's hitting the cover off the ball. He's got the best average in baseball since the end of April, right?
Yep.
But he's not hitting home runs. And he's a bigger guy whose body is going to wear down. He's he won a Gold Glove at first base a few years ago, didn't he?
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I put the word "one" in quotation marks, right? because
So
he's not a particularly, he makes some nice plays, but he just does not strike me as a really good first baseman, right? So who's going to give you?
Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove while he was DH most of the
Oh,
years.
he
No,
did. He won one year where he played like 30 games at first base. It was ridiculous, right? But you know, who's going to give you three top prospects for a for an overweight first baseman who doesn't field that well and looks like he doesn't hustle all the time, who is on a pace to hit 15 home runs this year? If you're going to be that guy, uh, you know, is Guerrero going to turn into Pedro Sandoval, where he hits 320, but he doesn't have any power? I mean, that guy doesn't do you any good, and he's not worth a whole bunch of prospects,
that's a good comparison.
right?
But hold on, Wayne. You come to Houston, you're like Houston. Okay, I know you guys have a very top outfield prospect, and you got a bunch more coming in the pipeline. I'm not just giving you Vladdy. I'll give you Romano. I'll give you Kikuchi. You're gonna get a number three starter. You're gonna get a setup man. I have a lot to give you here. You want Springer. You want Kiermaier. I got pieces for you that contending teams are infatuated with come trade deadline time where they can plug in these pieces. Like we have great pieces for depth for people, but not really for starters. That's the funny part of it. As
Yeah.
far as like top of the lineup type guys. So let's say in a world, Kikuchi, Romano, and Vladdy, yes, I'm getting three prospects out of that, 1,000%. For Vladdy alone, I'm getting their top prospect and maybe a pretty good roster piece, like a number four starter, for example. Um, I hope they don't trade Barrios. I hope they don't trade Bassett. I think that we have some good we have good core pieces. I think it's like the Leafs in that it's time to move on from Marner. It's time to move on from Guerrero. We need to shake it up. We need to change management, but Shapiro, I don't know if he's going anywhere. The same way Shanahan's not going anywhere. Can't see a world where Mattingly's not the actual manager by the end of the year. So changes abound. It's gonna happen. I just think that they have a faulty foundation. They didn't really think that through properly. And when you're going with a solid foundation, it sinks on you, and you don't have the core and depth of the Rangers and the Phillies in their lineup. And it's showing the all season it's showed. And I don't see a world where they don't finish last place in their own division. Period.
I'm not that down on the Blue Jays as a whole this year. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? No, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But I mean, as we sit right now, they're 3 games under 500, right? They just swept the White Sox, which you should sweep the White Sox, right? And you lost 3 or 4 to the Tigers, which the Tigers, people want to dump all over the Tigers, but I think if you look at the two rosters, we were talking about that last week. Do you flip rosters? I like Detroit's roster better than I like the
Hell
Blue Jays
yeah.
roster, right?
Heck yeah. Have you seen Scooble? Oh my Lord. This guy is
Mm-hmm.
unhittable. Olson has like an ERA under two and he finally won his first game of the year. Like,
That was horrible, wasn't it? I was watching that game and I thought, how the hell can you be like 2.09 ERA and be 0-5? That must just be maddening, right? But
yeah.
and I have a pile about this big of Tariq Skubal rookie cards that I've been sitting on. I have some out of 50s and stuff. I'm very happy about that, right? But
Their
the
hitters
division,
and their hitters are gonna get going. They have nice young core pieces. Like
yeah.
Tigers have an upside. The Jays, it's not. It's just gonna keep like add another year to Springer and another year to Kiermaier. Like this ain't great, Wayne.
Look, I and as much as I still have I'm Jay's Man in White on Twitter, right? One of my handles on Twitter, my Blue Jays handle is Jay's Man in White. If any of you remember that controversy back when that was 10, 12 years ago when Batista was here and they said there was a guy in the outfield signaling the pitches to Batista and
Oh
it was the
yeah.
Jays Man in White. So that's my handle, right? But my actual title on there is Shapiro centric. And look, I if you look at the team as it's constructed, the pitching staff is pretty good. They've built a pretty good pitching staff, right? They've built a pretty good bullpen. They're having some difficulties in there right now, but they have the makings of a pretty good bullpen. But they anchored everything around Guerrero and Bichette. And when you tie, your whole future basically, offensively to those couple of guys. And then you trade away Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel and you let Hernandez walk because you think these guys are going to be so good that we can build around them. It was just a bad bet. And it happens. And I think all these guys are gone at the end of the year next year at the very latest, right? They should have been fired already. I mean, and it's just the nature of the beast. All of them should have been gone. Um, I just hope they have John Gibbons on speed dial.
He has a
I would
job.
love to.
He has, he
I
has,
would.
he
I
has a
would.
job. He has a job.
I know, but I would love to have Gibby back here. I
I
would
love,
be
yeah.
perfectly happy with Gibby, but I think you're right. I think it's probably Mattingly who steps in at least on an interim basis. But you know, it's just like the discussion we had last week. The team needs to be remade, pretty much from the ground up. You've got to think. I think they tried this year. We're not gonna do the stupid, goofy stuff, and we're gonna, focus. Gurriel's gone, no jacket. We're gonna focus, focus, focus. And I think what they found is they don't have the team to focus, focus,
They brought
focus.
back the jacket. There was no
Yeah,
choice. They brought back the jacket. And in Minnesota, they have the beef jerky that they bring out,
I have to say I love the Detroit pizza, the pizzas on the spear. That's pretty hilarious. They have the Trident, the Mariners, right? The Trident.
and in Florida, they have the sombrero, which interesting. So come September, in your world, are Bichette and or Guerrero gone, or is one of them staying in your mind?
If one of the two of them stays, it's probably Bichette because he has another year that's pretty team friendly for the deal. Um, in my mind, though, by the start of the season next year, neither one of them are here. And
I,
and frankly, I think we talked about, what are the odds of Marner being here? And I said less than 50%, and you said less than that even. I think it's a better than 50% chance that both of them are gone at the trade deadline.
I think
I think
Vlad.
you're right. I think there are going to be some guys, there's going to be somebody out there who is willing to overpay for both of them. Guerrero, especially if he starts hitting home runs over the course of the next month, somebody's going to pay for that bat, whether it be LA or whoever it is, right? Or Cleveland. Um, and if Bichette stays hot the way he is right now, too, somebody is going to go to him and say, we'll sign you long term to a big deal. You're a second baseman. Get used to it. Or
I
a
just
right fielder, you know?
I just watched Moneyball the other day, and my advice to Shapiro is you made a big mistake letting Peter Brand go. I think you need to get Peter Brand back.
Right.
Except he's busy in Cleveland now, an NFL executive, and advising to sign Deshaun Watson to a major deal. So maybe Peter Brand wasn't the genius that we all thought he was. Um, the two GMs in baseball, as we end today's episode, that I'd be telling you, you always have to have it on your speed dial because they run their teams like fantasy teams, is San Diego and Seattle. Those guys love trading all day long. And I see a world where Vladdy is either in Seattle or San Diego so easily. And so I'm going to guess that both are going to get moved by the deadline. And I would put Seattle and San Diego on top of my list. And it'll be interesting. I feel bad for Jays fans. They have renovated Rogers Center. But look, you got to make changes at the top. And once you do that, then you can have a game plan. Because to me, it looks like you've been working on renovating the stadium and totally forgot about roster, forgot about the fact you need to have prospects in the minors. Like, maybe hire some scouts. I don't know. Not bad idea. Maybe figure out who's been scouting for Texas and Baltimore, and maybe pay them a lot of money, bring them over. Because take a look at their depth. Like Wayne, I would take the AAA Baltimore roster over the Jays right now. Like that's how deep they are. So
Right.
be interested to see what's gonna happen. As we pause here for this episode, next week I got a surprise topic for Wayne. He has no idea what's coming. And you're going to see the joy in Wayne Fraser Jr.'s eyes because we're going to marry sports and Hollywood. And we're going to talk about something really great that's coming very soon. And we're all very excited about it. And I'm very curious to see Wayne's take on it. So
I do want to say one more thing
please.
to Blue Jays fans. I know last year when they started the renovations, there were some people who were looking for seats out of the Rogers Center. And there was a big kerfuffle about, oh, they're available, oh, they're not available, or whatever. Well, it turns out that Priestley, I think the name of the company is Priestley Demolition. If you Google Blue Jays seats or whatever, and they're located up off of Highway 400 on Bradford, they are now making the seats available to the public, apparently. And they're getting stuff from the Air Canada Center also, because they're doing some renovations in there. A friend of mine was just down there and bought a couple of really cool pieces, like old stadium pieces from directly from Priestley Construction, and they actually list some of the stuff on the website, but they're bringing more things in. So I don't know the website off the top of my head. I think it's just Priestley Demolition or whatever, but look them up if that's something you're interested in. I actually just bought out a guy, oh my gosh, 9 truckloads of stuff, 1,100 jerseys, 25 boxes of sew on patches, 40 or 50 autographed goalie masks. But one of the cool things I got in there was a bunch of seat backs from Maple Leaf Gardens, the Sky Dome. They're not the complete seats, they're just the backs. So they make nice display pieces or things you can get autographed or whatever. But I also got, let's see, the Buffalo Stadium. I got a couple things from the Odd. I got Fenway Park back seats. I have Miami. And the coolest thing I got is I got a piece of one of the original benches from Lambeau Field. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. It's just a piece of like one of the backings of the benches and one from the big house at the University of Michigan. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you're welcome to check out the website. I'll be putting it up in the next month or two as we shoot pictures of it and stuff like that. But Priestley Demolition is the name of the place down in Bradford. I'm not paid by them or anything like that, and I'm not making anything. I'm actually cutting my own throat by, instead of making a deal with them, sending you to them directly. But apparently they're pretty good guys to deal with, and they have some really interesting things, so worth checking out.
Wayne Frazier Jr. of Doug Laurie Sports. So if you want to buy some pieces from his 9 truckloads, you know to reach him at Doug Laurie Sports. And otherwise, Priestley Demolition. I wonder, can Priestley Demolition trade Guerrero and Bichette? They're able to move product here. Maybe we should make them the general manager of the Blue Jays because it's time to demolish the team. Wayne, you can't make this stuff up. I gotta ask you, like, did literally 9 trucks pull up to your back door and like you have to unload them one? Like, how do you?
Oh no, I have been going back and forth. The quick version of this is it's a fellow that I've dealt with for quite a number of years, and I had no idea he ran it out of his house, and he doesn't live too far from me. No idea the extent of the operation. He's mainly a Jersey guy, and he's moving. In fact, he left this morning for New Brunswick, Fredericton, New Brunswick, a tractor trailer full of totes. He had over 500 totes of jerseys and pre-sewn numbers. This guy, to the extent that he already has Macklin Celebrini Sharks jerseys made for after the draft, right? But he had all of this extra stuff, and he just kept saying, "Here, take this too, and take this too, and take this too," and it went from, maybe I'll do the jerseys that you have left over to the number was right and I don't want to deal with this, and he just kept adding stuff. And so I have been going back and forth once every day or two, loading all this stuff in my truck and then bringing it here and offloading it every day. I just picked up the last bit of it 2 days ago. I still have a bunch of seat backs and a few Spectrum floor seats from Philadelphia in the back of my car that I haven't taken out, which I got to get out because I'm golfing tomorrow morning. I got to get my clubs in there. So that's what it's been. And here I am, you and I, on a personal note, the situation I'm in with my location for the mall right now. And I'm just thinking I may have to relocate. And I just brought in 9 loads more of stuff. So, yeah, if anybody needs a whole bunch of jerseys, you know what? I'm going to be building sets like practice jerseys, team sets and things like that. And I did get a bunch of basketball and baseball jerseys in this too. So, it's going to be pretty crazy in here over the course of the next couple of months.
If you're a sports hoarder and you have great memorabilia, sports cards, whatever, I got some McFarlane's for baseball figurines for Wayne. We'll talk about it off air. But contact Wayne Frazier Jr. of Doug Laurie Sports. You never know. He may bring a tractor trailer and grab your stuff. So
that's right.
Stay tuned for that. We'll be back next week on the Chosen Life podcast.